consultant?
Good question, because a lot of people just don't understand it. Basically, I help people deal with their stuff. Paul, easiest way to think of it is this. Turn your house upside down and shake it.
Okay.
What falls out is what I deal with. Antiques,
Okay.
collectibles, and residential contents. If it doesn't fall out, you deal with it as a realtor.
Right.
So a downsizing consultant helps people deal with their stuff.
Mm-hmm. And how did you develop this the whole concept that you have of home downsizing consultant?
Again, I saw too many people being taken advantage of. You know, people who've lived in their homes 20, 30, 40 years have a house filled with stuff. And then who's the first person they call in is the person who wants to buy it. And that person has a vested interest in quoting them as low a price as possible.
Sure.
And too many people don't get how that even though the market's not great, a lot of the stuff is still worth a lot more than they think it is. So that's what I do is I help them understand what it's worth.
Terrific. And we had a question from Cindy in Newtown. Cindy wanted to know, what are some of the common mistakes people make when they're downsizing?
First of all, the biggest mistake is not listening to the realtor. Because I try and explain to people that as a downsizer, I can turn your personal property into cash. But it's Paul, the realtor, who's going to deliver you that big check at settlement.
Right.
But Paul can't close on that house unless every piece of personal property is dealt with and out of the house.
Everything has to be out, yes.
And so they start selling haphazardly. The first mistake people do is they have a garage sale. And I tell people that's the last thing you want to do. You start with finding out what your things are worth, and then we have what I call Mike's buffet of selling options, which I can get into later on, which gives different people different options on how they can get rid of it. The biggest mistake is they sell too fast before they know what it's worth.
Okay. So what process do you go through when you first meet with a client? I know you met with one of my clients, Sarkis, recently.
Yep.
And so can you explain to everybody what process you go through?
Sure. The first thing I do when I go out to a house, I sit down and I try and figure out where my clients are coming from. Some people are moving, some people aren't, some people are just settling in a state. So I want to find out where they're coming from. Okay. And then I ask them this one three-part question. I said, think about the things that you're getting ready to sell. Are you looking for the most amount of money?
Okay.
You want to do the least amount of work, or you have to get rid of it in the shortest amount of time. And you can't say all three. And then I want to explain to them that the worst situation to be in is to have the least amount of time. I one time had a client call me on a Thursday saying she had to be out of her house on Saturday. Most people say they want the most amount of money, but they have to do the most amount of work.
Sure.
And when I go through my whole list of options and I finally get to, do you want to put it on Craigslist and have strangers come to your house, 95% of people say, tell me about the option which is the least amount of work.
Okay.
And that's either you send it to the auctioneer or you find a private buyer for it.
Okay. Now, you mentioned about when we were talking earlier about the 4Ds. Can you go over that a little bit more with the audience?
Sure. When I do a lot of classes on home downsizing.
Okay.
And I tell people that auctioneers get most of their business from the 4Ds. And I ask them to name the 4Ds. And so usually the class is smart enough to figure out that the first word is downsizing. Then the next one is death. Auctioneers get a lot of business from estates where someone has passed away.
Okay.
Then there's divorce. Usually whenever there's a divorce, each side takes away certain things have to be dealt with in an equitable manner. And then
you would appraise those types of things in a divorce to know how much they are?
We can do that.
Okay.
We can do that. I have a whole section of my website devoted to divorce appraisals.
Okay.
Because why pay the attorneys big money if you could sell things out of court?
Sure.
I've seen people spend thousands of dollars fighting over a thing with $50. It makes no sense.
Okay.
So in addition to downsizing, death, divorce, the fourth D is debt.
Okay.
People have to sell things to pay off their bills. So that's
Sure.
where most auctioneers get their business.
Okay. And you developed a 4-step system for home downsizing. Can you go over that?
Yep. It takes 2 hours when I'm doing a class, but I'm going to try and do it in 2 minutes or less here.
Okay.
Step one, I tell my clients to analyze your situation. Before you start selling, before you start doing anything, figure out what you're going to be doing. Are you moving? Are you staying put? Are you moving to a different part of the country? You're moving to a bigger house? Believe it or not, I've had some people downsize into larger homes than they were in. Usually people downsize. Usually a downsize a small thing. So I try and make them think about the step-by-steps, what they're going to be doing.
Okay.
Then the thing that everybody wants to know is the value. I have this AVID process, AVID. The first step is analyze your situation. The next one is value. Get a value on what you've got.
Okay.
And the worst example I can give people is about the family that dad had passed away a number of years ago. Mom recently passed away. The family came in, had a garage sale. And they ended up selling her $10,000 ring for $10 because they didn't know what it was worth. They thought it was costume jewelry.
Right.
And that's an extreme situation, but get a value on something before you sell it, not afterwards. When I give my classes, I go through 11 different ways people can get the value of their things for free.
Okay.
But I'll tell you the top one right now is simply go to eBay. If you go to eBay and look at completed prices for whatever you're trying to sell, that's the most current value there is. The last thing you want to do is go to a price guide that's outdated because prices have changed tremendously.
Sure.
So you analyze your situation before you start doing anything. Then you start getting a value on things that you have. Then you look at the options. And I have what I call Mike's buffet of selling options. And there's 10 different things. And I call it a buffet because just like you and I could go to a food buffet, we're not going to eat the same thing. We're going to eat maybe 2 or 3 things.
Right.
It's the same thing with these. Some people should sell things at auction. Some people should sell things privately. Some things should be sold on eBay. Some things should be donated. And I have a whole list of 10 of these that are ideal for disposing of things. And so after you've analyzed the situation, you've valued it, after you've investigated your options, the D part is easy. The D is dump and dispose. But you don't want to start with dumping and disposing. You want to finish with that. And I can't tell you how many people call me up and say, Mike, I'd like you to come out and look at my things, but I don't want you out until after I throw the junk away. And I got to tell them, no, get me out there before, not after, because a lot of times the things they think are valuable are not, and vice versa.
Right. Okay, terrific. And now, I know with the client that you came out and saw, the value that they had in mind and the value in reality are 2 different things. And how do you handle that?
A lot of people fail to grasp this part of my job. The easy part is for me to go out and tell people their things are worth a lot more than they are. But a lot of times I have to tell people their things aren't worth what they thought.
Right.
And so you remember one of the first 3 questions I just asked, most money, least amount of work, shortest amount of time?
Right.
I then wrapped that up with, when I'm going to give you a number, you want it sugar-coated or you want it right between the eyes?
I remember that.
And people say, give it to me right between the eyes. So I give them an honest opinion of value. And a lot of times it's a lot less than they thought, but that actually saves them from selling something too cheaply. Because ultimately people send things to the auctioneer. When it sells for peanuts, then they get mad at the auctioneer and say, well, if I knew that's all it was going to bring, I should have kept it. Well, that's part of my service, is helping them understand it before they send it, not after.
Okay, terrific. And are there any tips? We had a question from Elaine in Quakertown. Elaine wanted to know, give us some home downsizing tips.
Yeah, number 1, don't sell to the person telling you what it's worth. A lot of people don't get this. When I tell them, when I come out to your house, I'm not there to buy anything. I'm there to work as your consultant. And they kind of say, well, I want to sell my stuff. I don't need a consultant. I want to sell it. But they have no idea what it's worth. So I think people don't understand that you have to get an understanding of value before you start selling it.
Okay.
And that's probably the biggest mistake people make.
Okay, terrific. And can you give us some examples of things that, things that you run across?
I do a whole presentation, Paul, called 25 Categories Guaranteed to Disappoint When It Comes Time to Sell. And these are things we all have in our houses. One of them is entertainment centers. Okay, but Mike, I just paid $1,500 for that entertainment center. What do you mean it's only worth $50? And so I asked the class, and I'll ask you, Paul, what's wrong with entertainment centers today?
They're too big?
No, not really. They only accommodate a 35-inch TV.
Okay.
And everybody today, including me, has TVs that are 50, 60 inches or more.
Gotcha.
Entertainment centers today, if you buy them, they're open-sided. So they will accommodate any size TV. But the older ones, they're useless. You and I, our generation, we would look at possibly turning them into a liquor cabinet or a linen cabinet or sweater storage. The younger kids don't look at that way. So those things aren't bringing much money. Baseball cards are another perfect example.
Okay.
I don't know about you, but I'm not talking old baseball cards. I'm talking cards from like the mid-'70s on.
Right.
There was a study done one time, and they found that 89 billion baseball cards were printed in 1981.
Wow.
Well, no market could absorb that. And cards that old, they sell by the pound. It's the earlier cards that are worth money, like the 1960s and earlier.
Okay.
When I was a kid, you might have done this too. When I was a kid, I took my cards, and I was from New York State. I was a Yankee fan, and so I put my Phillies on my bicycle with clothespins. It makes it sound like a motorcycle. Did you ever do that?
Yeah.
And I ruined a lot of my cards, just like every other guy my age. I also tell people that baseball cards were my first foray into gambling. Did you ever play Topsies and Flipsies where you gambled your
Oh, yeah.
cards? Okay, and that's our generation ruined
Oh,
our
yeah.
cards, so there's not that many left. So early cards bring good money. Later cards, they sell by the pound.
Yeah, I remember getting going around a park which we had across the street, getting bottles and taking them back for the I guess they gave us like a deposit or something.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. Yeah,
Right.
5-cent deposit.
Yeah, and then use that to buy baseball cards. I
Exactly.
have no idea where the baseball cards are now.
Exactly.
You know, unfortunately.
One of the biggest categories that I have to tell people about is in the auction business, there's a term, brown is down. Brown
Okay.
furniture is down. Whether it's cherry, maple, walnut, mahogany, brown furniture just isn't selling. I can't tell you, I must get 2 or 3 calls a day from people who find me in the phone book and they want to sell me their dining room set. And dining room sets just aren't selling today. And they're asking big money, and there's not enough buyers because the younger generation doesn't use the formal dining room the way we did.
Right.
And they're also building houses today without dining room sets, or without dining rooms, I mean. So if someone wants to go to my website, michaelivankovichappraisals.com, scroll down about halfway down on the homepage, I published a column called The Nearly Extinct Formal Dining Room, where things in your dining room are worth less than you thought.
Yeah. Now, what about living rooms? They seem to be going less and less now too in the homes.
Yeah, that's also on my top 25 list. Let me
Okay.
ask you a question. Would you go to an auction and buy a piece of upholstered furniture, not knowing where it's been, and bring it into your home?
Probably not.
Most
No.
people don't, because they're afraid of bed bugs. They're afraid of cooties. And so, if you have a dining room or a living room set that's upholstered and it's nice and clean,
Mhm.
try and find a new home for it. Don't pay the expense and the commission of sending it to the auctioneer, because the auctioneer is not going to be able to turn that into a whole lot of money for you.
Now, what about antique collections, paintings, things like that? How do they play out as far as their value in today's world?
Huge difference there in what you're talking about. I mean, when I'll go into a house, I can go into a house and I can sort an entire house into 3 categories: sell, donate,
Okay.
dispose. Fine art, good prints, collectible things, I will always be able to find a nice home to sell them to.
Okay.
There's a lot of prints that are just decorative prints. They were bought at a Walmart, a Kmart, at the shore on somebody's vacation. Those have no collectible value, so we usually just donate those.
Okay.
And if they're so ugly, nobody would want them, or if they're so damaged, we throw them away or we sell them for the price of the frame.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And what about jewelry that people have in their homes?
Wow, that's a tough one.
Okay.
And that's the biggest vulnerable area people have, Paul. All right, you're a small man. You're a smart man. You're a realtor. Let me ask you 2 questions. How many pennyweights in a troy ounce?
I don't know.
How many grams in a troy ounce?
I don't know.
Well, you're not alone, Paul. Nobody understands that. And yet, the minute you take your gold jewelry, the
Mhm.
gold earring, the silver dollar that Grandpa gave you, whenever you take it to a We Buy Gold place or a jeweler or one of these places, they're going to quote prices in terms of pennyweights and grams.
Okay.
And people just don't get it. And so they're behind the 8 ball the minute they walk in the door. And that's one of the biggest things we do is we help people convert their coins, their precious metals, their things into cash
Okay.
without being taken advantage of. Here's a perfect example. I had a house in Bucks County a while ago, and her husband passed away and left his wife 4 coffee cans filled with coins.
Mhm.
The family was getting ready to deposit them into the bank for the face value. And I said, let me look at them. And we found out that almost all of them were junk silver. That means they were silver coins, dimes,
Right.
quarters, halves, minted before 1965.
Okay.
And I got that family almost $25,500.
Wow. And what about the furniture? I guess let me ask this first. Somebody has something they bought at an antique store, and they pay a lot of money for it, and now it may not be in vogue right now. How do you discuss that with people? I'm sure they're very frustrated by the whole process.
A couple of years ago, people didn't really believe me. Now most people have shopped it around. They've heard enough of it. They kind of get it. And what's happened, I do a whole presentation on the changing antiques and collectibles market. But a number of things have happened that have changed things. I think one of the biggest is 9/11, because after 9/11, buying and collecting antiques just wasn't as important to as many people as it was before.
Sure.
Antiques were financed, believe it or not, during the Clinton years with people's play money. Everybody's 401ks were rising. Everyone's home values were rising. Everybody
Sure.
had a home equity line of credit on their home. And so a lot of that money was funneled into the antiques and collectibles market, and that fueled prices going up, up, up.
Mhm.
But after 9/11, as the economy has softened, as the whole world has gotten a little bit more uncertain, people aren't investing in the antiques and collectibles market the way they used to, because a lot of antiques and collectibles have proven to be nice items, but not really good investments.
Right.
So that's just kind of the change. Plus, that you throw in the generational change. Kids don't like the same things that we do.
Sure.
I'll say to a class, "Have you offered the things to your kids?" Almost everyone says, "Yep, they don't want them." And that's the real world today. So my
Yeah.
job is to kind of bring reality into the situation and let people understand this does have value. Don't throw it away.
Mhm.
It just may not have as much value as it did 10 years ago.
Right. Now, when you're going to a home and you're evaluating things that people have in the home, furniture or whatnot, how can you tell whether or not it's a true antique and versus something that's been manufactured?
40 years of experience.
Okay.
You just know the look, the feel, and everything like that. I've got the greatest job in the world. My life is a treasure hunt. As a home downsizer, I help people deal with their treasures.
Sure.
On Friday nights, I'm a fundraising auctioneer wearing the tux.
Okay.
Today I'm with you. I've got a tie and sport coat on. Yesterday I was in a dumpster,
Okay.
throwing people's crap into the dumpster. But I get to look at things, feel. A lot depends on the name. It depends on what it is, the year, the condition, and the difference between a set of silver-plated flatware sells for $10-20. Sterling silver flatware can sell for $1,000 to $2,500 or more, depending on the number of pieces and the weight.
Yeah. Now, what are the most what are types of things that will bring in the most money for a home sale, as they're for the collection that they have? Any?
You're playing right into my presentation.
Okay.
When I do the 25 categories guaranteed to disappoint, I follow it up with the 6 hottest categories.
All right.
And in my opinion, the 6 hottest categories are auction. Number 6 is military. Things that are military related, World War II, World War I, Spanish-American Civil War. The farther back you go, usually the fewer things there are, but military is still fairly collectible.
Mm-hmm.
Number 5 is boy toys, automotive-related things. Everyone watches Bear Jackson on TV, Mecum Auto Auctions.
Mm-hmm.
You go to a car show, you have a hard time finding a parking spot. So guys love their boy toys. Ladies like their bling. That's number 4, jewelry. Silver is just downwind a little, $20. Gold is somewhere downwind to $1,300. The price of gold and silver jewelry fluctuates with the price of gold and silver. Number 3 is the high-end art market. Rich people always have money. Rich people are always putting their money into either evolving or emerging artists
Mm-hmm.
or proven artists. The middle art market is really soft right now, but high-end art is doing real good.
Okay.
Number 2 is basically gold and silver coins or gold and silver, kind of anything else, decorative accessories. So we have military, auto, jewelry, high-end art market, gold and silver. What do you think the hottest item at auction is right now?
Well, I'm going to cheat because you told me a couple weeks ago.
Get out of here. All right, firearms. Yeah,
There you go.
firearms is a hot market. You go to a firearms auction, prices are incredibly strong.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go back to the home downsizing. You go in, you evaluate, help people make a decision as to what they should sell, what they should dump, maybe what they should donate. Okay. Then what other services can you provide somebody in the downsizing? Do you help them make with the auctioneer? You help taking the stuff to the auctioneer. What other things can you do for our client?
We can do all of that. First thing usually people bring me in for is just what's it worth and what do I do with the question.
Okay.
For that, my fee is $195. I'll go out to a house, and it generally takes about 2 hours.
Okay.
And because I'm not trying to buy anything from them, I'm giving them a good, honest opinion of value. They may not like it, but they know I'm not trying to buy it from them. Now, I'm not the kind of guy who sets up diagrams. I'm not an organizer. There's other people who do that much better than I could do. But I basically help them deal with their stuff. So after the initial consultation, a lot of people say, you know what, fine, me and my family will take care of it, and we're done. Thank you, Mike. That's fine.
Okay.
A lot of people can't do it. They either physically can't do it, they emotionally can't do it, it's got too much sentimentality, or they're from out of the area. So we can go into a house and, like I said, sort the house into sell, donate, dispose. We can take the items to auction. We can have the other items donated, and we can bring up the dumpster and fill it up. I mean, right now I've got my van outside. I'm way to an auction company after this to drop off a consignment that I picked up yesterday because the family's from out of the area and they just can't deal with it themselves.
Right. So okay. So you bring a team in and you work with the people as far as sorting things out, and you'll take out anything that needs to be taken out.
Yep. Family always comes and picks out what they want first. Kids, friends, get some of the others, and then we deal with what nobody wants. It's not uncommon for someone to call me and say, Mike, we're moving. After we leave, we want you to deal with everything in the house. Okay. And that's usually under the control of a realtor like yourself. Okay. And so we leave the house broom clean and ready for you to either list or close on or whatever it's got to be.
Right. And so let's say some things are going to an auction house, okay? What are some tips as far as working with an auction house? And what is the process involved? Are there contracts involved? You know, when did they get, all the way out to when they get the check in the end?
Okay. Auctioneers are fiduciaries. We handle people's money. And yet different states look on that entirely differently. The state of Pennsylvania, you're required as an auctioneer to be apprenticed for 2 years under a licensed auctioneer. After you've apprenticed for 2 years, you have to pass a test. Once you pass the test, you have to become licensed and bonded by the state. If you have a problem, if the client thinks they've been cheated, they have the right to go before the State Board of Auctioneers in Pennsylvania to have their case heard. So you're protected because we can be handling an awful lot of your money.
Sure.
In New Jersey, there's no auctioneering law. Doesn't mean anything about the auctioneers in New Jersey. It just means there's no auctioneering law in the state of New Jersey.
Right.
So basically, auctioneers are different. I tell people you wouldn't want to take your heart replacement surgery to a foot doctor, or vice versa. The same thing, right. Auctioneers are different. I am the best auctioneer in the country for early 20th century prints, pastels, hand-colored photography. I'm not the best auctioneer for jewelry, furniture, or whatever. I can talk fast, but that's not, I don't have people in my audience. So what I do with my clients is I try to find the right auctioneer for what they're selling, recognizing that auctioneers are different. If I have a client that has a house full of good quality early Lionel trains, I'm going to send them to Ted Maurer in Pottstown, best guy I know for trains. If they have a lot of tools and there's a worth auctioning, I might send them to Greg Summers, a friend of mine up in Limeport, Pennsylvania. If it's a doll collection, I'll send them my friend Roxanne Morrison. So I have lots of people I can send things to, but the trick to getting the most money at auction is to find the right auctioneer for what you're selling.
Okay. And then once the stuff goes to auction, what can they? How long can they expect to receive their money out of the auction?
Okay, I'll talk for the state of Pennsylvania because that's where I'm licensed. In the state of Pennsylvania, you have to sign an auction contract.
Okay.
That's for your protection. The auction contract specifies what you're giving them, when it's going to be sold, what the commission rate is, when you're going to get paid, and other things of importance.
So that's in the contract.
It's in the contract. Okay. If an auctioneer in Pennsylvania tries to sell you things without a contract, run away, because the law says you have to have an auction contract. Usually commission's 25%. Some auctioneers work on a flat commission, some work on a sliding scale. But once the contract is signed, you deliver the commission to things. I tell people, Paul, there's 3 things to remember when selling an auction. Number 1, every auctioneer is going to charge you a commission.
Right.
Number 2, that commission doesn't include the pickup fee. You've got to get it to the auctioneer themselves.
Okay.
So if you have a carload of coins or trucks, or coins or jewelry, you can just drive it over. If you have a house load of furniture, it's pretty expensive.
Right.
Thirdly, the auctioneer is going to sell at what's called absolute auction. Absolute auction means no minimums, no reserves. You may think your upholstered sofa is worth $1,500. If he's getting $50, it's gone.
Okay.
So you got to be sure when you're sending it to auction, because once it's there, you don't get it back.
Okay, excellent. And we have a few minutes left. Is there any other things you want to share with our audience here today about the whole process of either downsizing or selling valuables, you know, in a downsizing situation?
Yeah, I just have your things appraised by someone who knows what they're doing, and most importantly, who has no vested interest.
Okay.
I mean, I'm a certified appraiser. I do appraisals for divorce, insurance replacement cost, life planning, non-cash charitable contributions. I do all kinds of written appraisals, but they're generally more expensive because they take time.
Right.
Whereas when people are downsizing, they just need a general idea. What do I have, Mike? What's it worth? And where do I sell it without getting cheated?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the difference. And that's kind of where we try and take our clients, help them understand what it's worth, where to sell it for as much money as possible in today's ugly market.
Okay. And Jim wrote to us, and he wanted to know, you know, if you go out and do these evaluations for a homeowner, would you also purchase some of those things, or you won't purchase anything where you go out and do an appraisal, or either written or verbal?
My rule of thumb is if I'm going out as an appraiser, I don't buy.
Okay.
I tell people, don't sell to the person telling you what it's worth, because it's a vested interest for them to give you lowball numbers. With that said, I've had a couple of customers on occasion say, you know what, Mike, I don't trust auctioneers. I don't want to use the auction method of selling. Just give me a fair number and get me out of it. I don't want to deal with it.
Okay.
In those cases, I can do that, but I don't do that without going through my never sell to the person telling you what it's worth speech.
Yeah. Okay, true. Now, Michael, if someone wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way to go about doing that?
Best way is Michael Ivankovich, www.michael, that's MICHAEL, IVANKOVICH, appraisals.com.
Okay, terrific. Well, Mike, thank you so much for
Thanks for having me
coming
back.
in and talking to us today. If you enjoy the show, please spread the word for us. My name again is Paul Rosso with Remax Properties in Bucks County. You can reach me at 215-778-9687. You can follow our show at www.buckscountyhomesandliving.com. You can follow us also on Facebook at Good Life Bucks County. You can also follow us on Twitter at Bucks County Live. So next week we have Steve Boyan. I almost forgot his first name. Steve's going to be talking to us about doing home inspections when you purchase a house. So have a great week. We'll see you around Bucks County, and